Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Florida Rise podcast. This is actually a special episode for me because I'm actually doing a joint podcast with the Florida Rise podcast crew, as well as the other podcast that I'm a part of, which is the Extreme Truth podcast, with my co-host James the Icon Grant and Legend Damian Simmons. So they're actually here with me today. So I'm really, really thankful to you all for being here. Today, this is a unique episode. Today, I'm actually interviewing the author of the Dutch book series, Mr. Teague. Kwame, how are you, my brother?
I'm good, but how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. So I know this was a little bit different because normally we have a video version of the show, but because of where you are, we're unable to. We're only able to do an audio version of it. I don't know if you're able to say where you are right now.
I'm down now.
Sure.
Nash Correctional, Nash Correctional, North Carolina, Nashville, down in North Carolina.
Yeah. So we're actually doing this show with Kwame at Nash Correctional Facility down in North Carolina. So I know that you get 15-minute increments, so we're just going to kind of jump into the show. All right.
Okay, I'm ready.
Got it. Thanks. All right. Now, Kwame, originally, you're from Newark, correct?
Exactly. Born and raised the bricks.
Okay. All right. Now, you grew up in the 80s in Newark during the crack era, stolen car era, when everything was just kind of crazy in Newark, right?
Right, no doubt, for sure. That was the time.
What was that time like?
North at that time, I seen, like I said, with crack being born, I seen the time before crack hit and right after it, and the difference that it made in the community with individuals, and so for that time it was defined by the birth of hip hop. Of course, club music is real big in North, so you know what I mean. We were moving into the space that the generation before us just evacuated. You know what I mean, and taking up the mantle from these individuals whose primarily hustle was the heroin game into the crack, and ours was more the crack game and somewhat of the weed game. But like you said, the stolen car thing was real big. North, that North known for that. So it was all of that was going on at one time. So it was kind of crazy.
Now, did you ever get involved in that game? In the drug game, the stolen car game, any of them?
Of course, the drug game. It was all around you. You didn't have to be knee deep in order to you know what I mean, and to partake of it. New York was right across the water. You know what I mean? We used to call it going over.
Sure.
You know what I mean? We going over, pick up, 145th for the weed. Then you had, Spanish Harlem for the spot all the way up Broadway, 164th. So we came over there and you made some money and you lost some money. You know what I mean? Like we were young and everybody wanted to be the next Scarface. So you go over, you pick up your little pack, you do what you do, you come back, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to spend it all up before it's time for the re-up. That was the game early on, 14, 15.
So wait a minute, you was actually in the drug game at 14 or 15 years old?
Right, I wouldn't say in the drug game because that kind of implied like, it was really, you know what I mean? Like you had a connect and everybody was well aligned. It was basically, a way to make money. You know what I mean? Like before the drug game, there was no way to make money unless you, had a job. Like I don't know if you remember Speedy Jobs, when you used to have the summer jobs and go downtown and got the jobs until they ran out. But before, after that, once the game hit, then it was easy for somebody to take $50 or $100 and make $400. You know what I mean? And so you made that $400 and you did what you was going to do with that $400. And then some people, flipped it from 4 to 8 and 8 to 12 or 12 to, you know what I mean? Really, the money really started getting made a lot more once we went OT, going down south, going to Delaware, going to Baltimore, all of these different places. Once that happened, then a lot of guys, really, really got rich and really ate. So, so I was involved with it, but, it wasn't the type of thing that I was defined by, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, it does. It does. So you were doing that. You were doing you were selling drugs. I don't know if I know back in that time, the car thing, stealing cars. I know that ring was pretty big around that time. Were you around that, or did you have any involvement with that at the time as well?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The car thing was our thing. Like, yo, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, stealing cars back then was, yeah, it was, again, it's like, when we talking about it, all of this is a part of the culture. Now, of course, you
Sure.
can skip around it, but it's there. Like, sometimes you get to the point with the car game that you walking down the street and you can tell a stolen car just the way it's parked. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that joint right there is stolen. And so sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
didn't even have to steal a car, you just stole a stolen car. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like there were times when we would park stolen cars all over the neighborhood, different parts of, the places that we would be the most. So that way we always had a car to
Mm-hmm.
get away with, whenever something was to jump off or what have you. So stolen cars was just a part of the come up, was a part of the game and how we did. I mean, it was one school, I remember when we was going down West Kenny. And that's like, West Kenny is like the last school on the map. Like after you get kicked out of West Kenny, you kicked out of all the school system in Newark. That's the last chance joint. And we went down
Okay.
there. I'm talking about, it was Acura's lined the whole street all up and down West Kenny, and all them shits were stolen. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
wow.
that was just Newark. That was just the way it went. Yeah, that was it.
Crazy. So you were doing this, but you also got into the music game around the same time. You started to mess around with music, mess around with DJ as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
What?
Yeah, like back then I used to carry records. There was an artist back in the day. I used to carry records, and that's how we got into the clubs. Especially down here. I mean, the music game for me actually started for me down here. There was a guy named Mickey D. That's still my man to this day. Mickey D was a DJ. He started DJing when he was 8 years old, and he taught me how to DJ when I was like 12
Oh,
or
wow.
13. And so he taught me the cutting and the scratching. He taught me how to glue the penny to the mixer so that the mixer would be shorter and your cuts would be quicker. So he taught me the game, and so I took that music game back up top. And, and
Okay.
from there became a DJ, was, known for that. So
I
a
seen
lot
him.
of guys around the
When I
neighborhood
looked
knew
on the
me from
side to see if he
DJing and
was there, he
stuff.
wasn't there. So no, I didn't hear him.
Dad, I'm sorry.
Huh?
Dad, I'm sorry. Dad, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
All
So
right, so
that was my thing. Like hip-hop was my thing.
Okay. So you said you were about 12 or 13 years old, and you're in the music game at that point.
Yeah, the music, I was, say 14, about the same time, about 14, like 13, 14. When I first learned how to DJ was down, like I said, down here, 12 years old, 12, 13, came back to New York about 13, 14, and then that's when I started DJing, and, around the area and around the neighborhood, shit like that, block parties and school parties. I remember I was talking to my man the other day. So, we was doing a party, we was doing a birthday party for my man. And so this is about the time that the song Gentle came out by Frederick, the slow joint. So everybody that got their girls in there, I'm DJing, and so I throw on Frederick, right? And so everybody is hugged up and shit like that there. So my girl there and everything. So I paid somebody, I said, hey, come here. I said, listen, every time this record go off, put that shit back on. And that shit ran for about 4 or 5 times. So his mother came down and said, oh, hell no. Like, you get your nasty ass to the bottom of this motherfucker. So that was the end of that party right there. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like that was the main thing, man, for us, just having fun and enjoying,
Sure.
you know what I mean, enjoying our youth.
Okay. So how did you balance school life with street life with music life? How did you handle that? How did you balance that?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, man, I dropped out when I was in 9th grade. It's one of my biggest regrets. I dropped out the first day I came, because I came back from down here back to Newark to start high school. And the first day I dropped out, me and my man Lil Mike, that was my heart right there, man. Mike was in the 11th grade. Mike dropped out in the 11th grade. I was like, God damn, how the fuck you dropped out in the 11th grade? You know what I mean? Like, God, you already finished. But me and him, that's when me and him really started rolling real hard. And like I said, unfortunately, that was the decision that I made at the time to make a full-time commitment to, the hustle and the bustle of trying to make things happen on my own. Being at that age, you always think you got it all figured out. So,
Of course.
it was pretty much that type of decision at that point. And so it really wasn't a balance. It was just really out there on the grind, doing whatever it is going to take for us to try to come up. And the music, like I said, the music started to take a back seat, because back then the music game wasn't like it is now. Like, you just couldn't upload a rhyme to YouTube and have somebody discover you. You know what I mean? Like, you either, you went to different entities. Like, Jersey wasn't known for having outlets of that nature. You know what I mean? Like even with Latifah, when Latifah and them came out, like Kim Shabazz, all of these people had to go to New York to get on. You know, they had to deal through New York entities. But so for us, there was no Saturday night where you can get busy on the mic and shit like that. There, like Sensation was a young club, but Sensation wasn't a club for hip hop. You know, you wasn't no amateur nights and none of that shit. So you didn't have that kind of outlet. So the music thing never really transformed until a little bit later. Like I said, until probably around 88, 89 is when I really 87, 88, 89 when I really got into the music thing, hard body.
So when you really got into the music thing, was that up here, or you I heard you mention earlier that you moved down south? So were you still up here?
Right, I got into the music thing up there. Yeah, I got into the music thing up in Jersey, and then from there it came down here. That's when we first got our first record deal, or moved to get our first record deal right down here.
Okay. So how old were you about when you got your first record deal?
When I was managing the group.
Okay.
18, so 19. About that. By that time, about 18, 19.
Wow. Okay. So you moved down south. You're doing your music thing. Are you still doing the street thing down there, or when you moved down south?
Well,
or did that cut out?
Nah. What happened was I made a commitment when I left Jersey not to fuck with drugs no more, not to sell drugs no more. And the reason was because my father, God bless his day, had got strung out on drugs. And he was strung out from, he got strung out maybe 85s, 86s. And so one day he comes through the spot, and he's, he was always borrowing money from my grandmother, God bless her, his mother, to get high. So it wasn't a thing for me for him to say, hey, I'm gonna get some money from mama and I'll pay you back or whatever. But this particular time when he came through and he asked me to look on, when I looked, I really wasn't paying him attention because I had lost a lot of respect for my father, because you got to understand, my father started off when I was younger, fighting the system in a very hard body way. Like, I'm talking about going hard. Like, my father, we lived in Connecticut, my father...
You have 60 seconds remaining.
He was a part of the Black Liberation Army. And so that's how me and my sister, got the name. Like, I was actually born in Ghana, but I was too young. When I came back, I was still an infant. So to this day, my birth certificate says baby Teague. You know what I mean? Like, that's so Kwame Teague. I ain't got a birth certificate, but so I say that to say that he was conscious, black consciousness, raised us to be conscious, raised us to be proud of who we are. He was fighting.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, hold up.
Yeah, I know you have to call us right back. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to reset. Yeah, as I've said before, being that this call is being made from a correctional facility, Kwame only gets about 15 minutes between calls, so he's gonna have to hang up, call us right back, and then we'll continue. But that's just being there for the beginning of the crack era, being there in Newark, being in the music game, being in the stolen car game. So anyone who lived in Newark, New Jersey during that time, or in New Jersey or New York or the area, you know about it. You remember that time. That I was a kid in the 80s in Brooklyn, so I remember that crack era. I remember the stolen cars. So the fact that he was there for the beginning of that while trying to manage music, that's big. That's big. That's something I didn't know about, the fact that he was born in Ghana. That's I didn't know that. I'm really, really interested to hear about him with his father, his father fighting the system. So
yeah,
we got you back. Okay.
Yeah. So he was, he was a part of an organization called UCC, United Community Corporation. And he was very much involved with the struggle for black liberation and black empowerment. He helped Kenneth Gibson, the first mayor, get elected. He was very much into politics. But we were living in Orange, New Jersey, on Hilliard Street, 112 Hilliard Street. And at the time I was at school, there was Arrow Gas is a company that used to do, was a prominent gas company in that area back in the late 70s, early 80s. And so they came to the house. I remember that them coming to the house all the time because in Jersey, of course, we got boilers, we got the you know what I mean, back, so they come through. The guy comes in and he tells my mother that he came to clean the boiler, and he had this. He had this vacuum cleaner type thing with a hose on it, whatever. So my mother wasn't thinking about it. At the time, my little sister was an infant. My great grandmother was alive at the time. God bless her dead. And so they were in the house together. Those three was in the house together. So the guy, my mother said the guy goes down in the basement and he comes back up and he says, I'm going to lunch. And she said he didn't have the thing anymore, the machine, the little thing. So he leaves out. Then not 5 minutes later, she starts smelling smoke and anything like this. So long story short, the house burned down. So my little sister, my mother, and my great grandmother just got out. In the nick of time. And so when they called Arrow, because they wasn't on the list to have anything clean at any kind of service. So when they called Arrow and told them who the guy was and whatnot, they said that person don't even exist. He didn't even work for Arrow, right? And so my father at that time, my uncle Hakeem, God bless his day, like that was my heart. Like he raised me, just as much as my father. He told my father then, he said, you just can't, do the same things you was doing. And fighting the system. So I think that really fucked my father up because that was his dedication. And so at that point, from there, translate within the next 2 to 3 years after that, then he got crack game. Crack really hits. Fast forward, and he got addicted to crack. So now we had this moment when he asked me about this, and so when I looked in his eyes, I didn't see nothing. You know what I mean? Like it was like his total soul was gone, and it fucked me up so bad. I just gave him the whole clip. I said, "Here, take, just go." And so he took it and bounced. But in my mind, I was like, "That's when I was through. I was through with selling drugs at that moment." I said, "Fuck it, I'm out." And so that's when I really doubled down and dedicated myself to music. So I went down there.
How old were you around?
Going down to the shop. 18, 19, like about 18, 19.
Okay.
So I go down south. I gotta have a demo, have my man Jazz demo. So I go down south and I'm shopping, and I had to learn a lot about the music business. I learned a lot about how to work the room. So I go down south. I go into a studio in Joy. I think it was Joy Records out of Durham. Yeah, Joy Records out of Durham. A guy named Willie Hill. Cool as a fan. He older dude. So I'm playing him the demo. He loved the demo. And long story short, he allowed us to go and come up there and really record for free. Like we paid like $500. It was $50 an hour, and we ended up recording for like 4 months. You know what I mean? Like he really dug our style as far as our musical style. The wild shit we was doing is what finally got us put out. Like we was wild. Like we would come up that bitch 30, 40 beat, and he's like, yo, these motherfuckers, too many of y'all. So long story short, he gives us a number. He goes and he gives us a phone number to a guy named K Nice in Greensboro, right? And he says, here, take this number, call this dude K Nice, and don't ever come back no more. So we left. After we left, they said Willie stopped doing hip hop. He just went back and started doing gospel music. He wasn't even fucking with no more street niggas no more. So I called K Nice. K Nice was working at 103. I always get it mixed up between the one in Virginia and one in North Carolina, but I think the one is 102 Jams in Greensboro. The other one is 103. It's one of the two. Anyway, so K Nice is working the 10 to 2. He was a DJ and up there. So I called, and I'm calling in the daytime, not knowing that he's the nighttime DJ. He didn't tell me who he was. He just told him, call the number, get the fuck out. So I call and thinking he's like the program director. So every time I call, they like, yo, Nice not here. Call him a little bit later. So I called the third time, fourth time. I said, yo, tell Nice this is opportunity, and I ain't gonna call no more. So the next day he calls back. He said, yo, who the fuck is this? Right? Nice was a big dude, real gruff motherfucker. So he said, yo, who this? I said, yo, this Kwame, yo, bro, I've been trying to get at you. Willie Hill send me, So he said, what you got going on? I said, man, I got that fire. Ain't nobody better than what the fuck we fucking with. He said, send me a demo. If I like it, I'm gonna hit you. If I don't, man, don't call my goddamn number no more. I said, say no more. The next day he called back, said, yo, when you can come up here. You know what I mean? He called back like, yo, when you can come up here. I said, yeah, we on our way. So I come up there, and the group I was managing was called Brick Flavor. And the lead, my man was Rakim to this day, still my man Rakim. And so I bring him up there. Rock had it all. He had the flow, he had the delivery, he had the style. The females loved him. So Nice was already locked in, like, yeah, let's do this. Let's make this shit happen. And so that's how we got our first record deal out of Funhouse Records out of Greensboro. The record was called Boss Man, and like I said, the name of the group was Brick Flavor.
Brick Flavor. Okay. Try to see if I can find it. We might be able to put that online.
Yeah, that was it. Bro, yeah, Boss Man, like, yeah. The biggest thing, I mean, Rock had a hell of a career, and I think, you know, I always regret, I always tell him that it was my fault, you know, that we dropped the ball because I was managing him. And Rakim, like I said, we was wild, we was bugging, everybody was going to jail, going into county jail, fucking up, doing all this wild shit. So Rakim was going back to back, Rock keep getting locked up. So on this particular time, he gets locked up doing the mix down. So when they mixed it down, Rock wasn't there. And Fanatic, matter of fact, Fanatic was the producer. Fanatic went on to do Crush on You by Lil Kim. By the Junior Mafia. He went on to do he did a bunch of remixes for Michael Jackson. Right now, he's still in the business. He go hard. Fanatic, he a beast. So they mixed it down, but Rock has a high-pitched delivery. So when they mixed it down too much, it made his voice too high-pitched. So it didn't register the way it should have registered his first record. But the dude was an animal. And like I said, you know, I really dropped the ball on that, being young and not knowing what the fuck I was doing. But yeah, so that's how we really, you know, put our foray, put our mark on hip hop history in North Carolina.
So you're doing your thing, you're doing your music, you give the drug game up, you're going legit, and then everything comes to a screeching halt. You get into some trouble.
Exactly. I mean,
and
exactly. You know what I mean? I got incarcerated, I got arrested. Right. And being in like I said, right now, like I'm working on the case. And, you know, I'm trying to get that done, so I can't really speak too much on it. But I got it. I got locked up. I got 2 life sentences and 100 years on the back of it because of two murders, 2 charges of murder, 2 charges of armed robbery, 2 charges of kidnapping. And so from there, they locked me up. This was 94. I got locked up I got arrested in 94. I got found guilty in 95. I got sentenced in 96. And so I've been going. So ever since then, I've been locked up since then. So being incarcerated, I said, okay, so how can I do to get my voice out there? How can I get out here and let these people know? How can I get to somebody to say, you know, I did not do this. This wasn't me. I need a lawyer to help represent me. And so I chose writing books. That was the first thing that came to mind because I had never written a book before, right? When I was younger, my older sister Sharon, she was a writer, and she showed me, I remember, never forget the day that she showed me a script, right? A movie script for, like she had written. And it looked so clean, like it was just so neat, like it's the information. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, because, you know, to me it was foreign at the time. I'm just used to paragraphs. And I'm looking, I'm like, what's this? And she's like, it's a movie script. And I'm like, a movie script? And I'm like, yo, this is where movies come from? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like the birds and the bees idea for me. Like, God damn, this is where movies is going from? So I'm looking, and I'm like, God, this is what I want to do. I want to write movies, you know what I mean? And so after that, periodically throughout my life, you know, I would sit down and I would type, we had a typewriter. I would sit down and I would type movies, you know, do movies that I wanted to, you know, coming off the top of my head. Because I learned how to write.
Sorry about that. So wait a minute. So you've been writing since you were a kid. You started to write when you were younger, right?
Yeah, I've been writing since I was like 12 or 13. That's what I'm saying. That's when my sister Sharon, that's when she first showed me how to script the movie, how to format it. And that's what made me fall in love with writing. You know what I mean? Like my father, father is was very articulate, huh?
So was the first thing that you started writing, was it scripts or was it books? Was that or short stories?
Scripts. I never wrote a book until I got incarcerated. I had always said on the street, like when I was writing movies, I always said I would never write a book because it's boring. You know what I mean? Like it just takes too long. Like I don't want to write a book. I want to write movies. Because movies move. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you write a script, you don't worry about the shiny veneer of the table as it came through the skylight. Like you didn't write all that. All you wrote is the room. You know what I mean? The details are very short and it's very long on story, pushing the story forward, not the details. Let the director handle that. And I always love that idea. To this day, I still do. And so that's really when I first fell in love with writing. And then I would just write little movies. I mean, little stuff that I would come up with and put that together. And one day I sat down and wrote The Outsiders, the movie The Outsiders. And with Tom Cruise and Emilio Estevez, one of my favorite movies. You love that movie. And I recorded it on, one of them church recorders. Recorded it from beginning to end on like 3 cassettes. And then I took it and then I wrote the movie down word for word. And that really helped me, I think, psychologically to be able to gauge when a story should change. Because it took me hours. It took me a couple of weeks. And so I'm engaging with this process. So now I'm internalizing when a story should turn, when there's the Act 1 turns into Act 2, what's the plot points. All of these things, even without knowing the name of it, I just internalize them. And to this day, like I don't need a piece of, I can just internalize when the movie is supposed to change. I can anticipate it. So that's how, that's really how the whole craft came together. So when I got locked up, I said, even though I wanted to write a movie, and matter of fact, I think probably the first thing when I got incarcerated was a movie. I wrote a movie called Soldier Story. Was it so? No, I might have known. I'm sorry. Skis and Pool. My man, I wrote a joint called Pool because the song that I came down here to shop for the deal for my man Jazz, he had a joint called Pool. That's what we came down here to shop. We did a demo in Jersey with that. And so I took that story and turned it into a movie. So that was the first thing I ever wrote when I got locked up. The second thing was Soldier Story. And then after that, when I say locked up in prison, meaning I got long term. I got, segregated, 24, 20, 23 and 1. And so when you locked up like that, you in one room for 23 hours, you only coming out for showers, you got a lot of time. You know what I mean? And I was literally in my room because we couldn't smoke on lockup. So I'm looking at I knew I had some matches left because, you take matches, you split them. But when you split a match, that shit thin as hell. Sometimes you lose it. So I'm like, I know I had a half a match in this motherfucker somewhere. And so that thought turned into Ghetto Sam, which was, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I ain't got no light. And that's exactly how Ghetto Sam started. And that's exactly how the whole movie, the whole shit played out right there. And so that's how I started writing the book. The first thing I wrote was Ghetto Sam.
So Ghetto Sam, so the name of the book was Ghetto Sam? Was it The Adventures of Ghetto Sam? Like, what's the actual
The Adventures of Ghetto Sam.
The Adventures of Ghetto Sam,
The Adventures of Ghetto Sam, Glory of My Demise. It's two books together. And so I wrote Ghetto Sam, and it was a short story. It really wasn't meant to be a whole, I really wrote it to go, back in the day in the Source magazine, in the back of the Source, it was Buck Wild. It was a kid named Buck Wild and somebody else. I forgot his partner name, but they were right editorials. Matter of fact, they ended up going on Hot 97, and that's the ones that got into the beef. But I think when Aaliyah died, they said some ill shit, and Jay and them was about to get at him because of the foul shit. Yeah, right. Buck Wild and his man Star, some shit. Anyway, they were right in the back of the Star, and they were pretty good. Their style was pretty good. So I wrote Ghetto Sam with the intention of sending it to them. So I actually did, send a copy to them. I wrote them. And I said, listen, if you don't like it, throw my shit out the window and set it free. Fuck it, at least something free. At least a part of me will be free. I never forget I wrote that song. And I never heard back. And so then after I wrote Glory of My Demise, which is kind of autobiography, I said, fuck it, I'm going to just put this shit out myself. Now, what was crazy about it at that moment, I came across a Time.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I came across a Time magazine, and they were talking about a new technology or a new publishing service called print on demand. Hold on, when I call back, I'll explain.
Okay. Whew, that's a lot of content. I mean, just how he got into the writing. That's, got into it by watching the movie The Outsiders first, and then writing down the script. That's something the average person would never think of. To write down the script to understand how scenes are written. I actually did do some research. So the story of Ghetto Sam is actually available on Amazon. So please, if you haven't bought it, please buy it and support. That's one of the main things that we try to do here. Definitely try to support. It's a good book, as well as the book Dutch, which we'll get into in the next segment. But as you can see, Kwame's had a heck of a life, and we haven't even gotten into everything yet. There's so much more to get into. I mean, it would be enough to have been in the music industry, to have written a couple of books while incarcerated and in the streets, to have written screenplays, but there's even more that we're getting ready to come into. So there's actually other books that he's written, other screenplays. So we're going to get into that right about now.
Yep.
Okay. We got you back.
So I read in the Time magazine, they were talking about print on demand, and the way print on demand worked was, instead of investing $5,000 to $10,000 on, because when you put out a book yourself, The only way to make it economical is the economy of scale. The more you buy, the less each one costs. So if you only print up, let's say you print up 100 books, it's going to cost you somewhere between $8 and $10. Well, most books cost between $8 and $10 or somewhere in that neighborhood, so you're not going to make any money. So in order to make money off of books, you got to print up at least 5,000. At least 5,000 will bring the price down to like $1.35 a book. Depending, I mean, printers vary from place to place. Matter of fact, up in Canada at one time, if you got 20,000, you only had to pay 70 cents a book, right? So, but at that time, of course, I didn't have $5,000, and I had none of that money to do that. But what was so crazy that at that particular time, the universe had brought into existence the print on demand. And so the way that worked was, it was a service. You sent your book to this service, a publishing service, and they uploaded your book into the internet. I mean, to cyberspace. Now your book doesn't exist in a physical form until somebody actually orders it, and then they just print one book at a time. And so that's how I first got. That's how I first decided to go. But then I hollered at my man, and he put me in the room. He put me in the room with Terry Woods because he was fucking with. He knew Terry Woods, and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna introduce you." And boom, we're going to do this because she just put out a book. Now, Terry had just came out with a book. That's when Terry had first came out with True to the Game. And when she came out with True to the Game, that shit wasn't even a book. She was printing that shit out of Kinko, right? And just selling that shit on the street. Nigga invested money. Yeah, Shorty was going hard. Like a lot of people don't know. She went hard in the paint to get her shit out there. And what really caught me about Terry was when she said, like, yeah, I went hard. The dude was helping me out. And he was putting the money up, and I ain't even had to sell no pussy or nothing. And it was just a real line. It didn't come off as, you know what I mean? It didn't come off slutty or nothing. It just came off like I'm a grind. I'm going to do what the fuck I got to do out here. And it was just that simple. And I fell in love with it right there. Like, you know what? Let's do this, man. Fuck it. I'm going to fuck with you. And so she read Gloria, Get On My Stepmom, and she put it on.
Okay. So what was the first book that you actually did with Terry Woods?
Yeah, Adventures of Ghetto Saint, Glory My Demise. Like I said, I actually put it out first as a print-on-demand book, but then when she read it, she loved it, and she was like, and I told her, I said, yo, I'm not, the publishing company wasn't, that I went through, it was a service, not a company. All I had to do was give them, I think, 90 days or something. I had to just give them a heads up and say, hey, I'm going, I no longer need your service. And that was it. After I broke breaks with them, I went and signed with Terry.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're doing these books, and then you come out with the book Dutch, which is I think one of your biggest books so far. First, can you just give a short gist of what the Dutch series is about?
Well, Dutch is about a drug dealer in New York in the 80s, during the 80s, named Bernard James, right? And it's basically, the premise of the story is, my philosophies is, life is about two questions. Everything in life comes down to two questions. How bad you want it and what you're willing to give up to get it. And so I use Dutch character to exemplify an individual who wanted it all and was willing to do whatever it takes to get there, right? And the whole story is told, the first Dutch is told from the point of view of an individual who, from everybody who's at the trial. Like, the whole book is the trial. He's on trial throughout the whole book. And everybody, he never speaks, right? He never speaks. Terry kind of fucked that up and put a couple of words in his mouth. I was like, nah, what the fuck? Because she just wanted to add a couple of words to say she had something to do with the book. But anyway, with the writing. But anyway, the point was, Dutch never spoke a word the whole first book. Everything that was Dutch was said from someone else's point of view, good and bad. So all you got from the first book was the perspective of an individual through people who loved him and hated him. That was the character study that I was doing with Dutch, and that's what it's about. So it's about a dude who takes over the drug game in New Jersey with a team, with a hard-body team, and they go hard, and it really spells out his rise to fame, his rise to power, and how at the end, how he brought it all back together again. For those who didn't read it, I don't want to get it up. But how he brought it all together, and it blew up. Like, everybody fell in love with it. Like, the ending killed them. Like, at the time, nobody had ever seen an ending like that. And like, I was like, and what you have to realize is, at the time, because I was raised Muslim, right? Islam has always been, You know, like I said, my father raised me black and proud. You know, and so Islam has always been in my DNA, always will be. You know, even though now I don't deal with a God, I don't necessarily deal with a religion, but it's always been in my DNA. And so at that time, when I wrote Ghetto Sam, see, there's a thing in Islam that says that you don't even lie when you're joking. Right? Like, even to this day, I don't, like, if I'm joking around, I don't even lie when I'm joking. Like, hey, man, you got some on your shoe. Like, you don't even do that in Islam. You don't even play. You can joke, but you don't joke with a lie. So for me to write a book about something that didn't happen was actually a violation of Islam, no matter how subtle, no matter how you justify it. When I wrote Ghetto Sam, I didn't do a lot of cursing in Ghetto Sam. I didn't have any explicit sex in Ghetto Sam. I didn't do the story, the whole hard body story. And so when Ghetto Sam came out, it didn't really do well, right? And so it's like, so Terry's like, it's a wonderful book, but nobody got it because it was so slang, hip hopish. So my ego kicked in at that moment, and I was like, so she was like, yeah, it got to be street. Like, it wasn't street enough. I was like, oh, what? That's what you want? And so my ego kicked in. I said, let me show these niggas that I'm the best that ever did it. And that's what made me do Dutch. Like, that was my whole, that whole Dutch was my ego on the strips, because I did Dutch freestyle. I didn't do an outline, do nothing like that. I had access to a computer. I was at a prison called Pasadena, and I used to go upstairs to the GED room, and every day I would go up there and they gave us the disc. So you're supposed to do your GED shit. I'm writing the book. So I would record it. Now, but I just freestyled. Every day I went up there, I freestyled. I came down when I came back from work, from school, and I was in the block. I would just be in there and I would just be thinking about what I'm going to write next. But I never wrote a word down in Dutch. The only thing that Dutch existed was as a disc, and now the disc no longer exists. I wish I still had it. I turned it into an NFC. But so that's gone. So but that's how I did Dutch, and from there it just blew.
And Dutch actually was turned into a movie a couple of years ago.
Right. It just got turned. Yeah. It got turned into a movie. It came out in March. Beginning of March is when it just premiered. It was supposed to have premiered in November. Actually, supposed to have premiered last July, but of course the COVID shit shut everything down. And so November, we thought we would be able to go on the slide, but it didn't happen. And so now it just premiered in March. And so it did real well over that opening weekend, and then it kept going, and it's still flowing. So after that, it'll go on to Netflix and all the streaming services, and then we got some other things coming down the pipe.
So you have any other? So you have any celebrities in that movie, or is it just an indie movie?
No, well, Lance Gross played Dutch. Those who don't know Lance Gross, he's in a lot of Tyler Perry movies. He was in Temptations, Confessions of a Marriage Counselor. He was in House of Pain. So he has a pretty recognizable face. He has a fan base. With Jeremy Meeks was the dude whose Buckshot went viral, and then Calvin Klein snatched him up as soon as he came from prison. So he's in it. I'm trying to there's a couple other people in Dutch. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. But yeah, so that's really, it is an indie film, and so yeah, so that's But that's yet to come.
Okay, so you've written a few other books beside Dutch and the Adventures of Ghetto Sam, right?
Right. I did Dynasty, which actually now is being turned into a series. I did Dog Politics. I did The Q, Above the Law, and I'm trying to. I may be forgetting one or two, but a lot of books I wrote, I ghost wrote for people, and so I can't really speak on who I ghost wrote for, but I ghost wrote for a lot of people in the industry, and so I'm pretty, like I said, I've been pretty fortunate to be able to get my talent out there and to be, for people to really feel where I'm coming from.
I've actually went and done some research, so I see that you have an Amazon page. And there's ways for people to purchase your books. I've actually looked them all up. So everyone, please go out. Please buy these books. Please support. These stories are great. I believe it or not, I actually found out about the book Dutch because my girlfriend had it. So when she found out that I was interviewing the writer of the book Dutch, she was excited. So, it's a very, very, very popular book. And the fact that, again, the book Dutch was turned into a movie, and you said the Dynasty is being turned into a series, correct?
Right. It's going to be turned into a series. Like, that's not even, like, I got a couple of drinks, man, like, it's really coming down the pipe. Like, we really, we're really about to really change the game in a thousand different ways. Like Imani Films is really about to turn up. Manny and Yolanda, those are the producers. They're really for giving people an opportunity. I mean, look at me, I'm in prison. I mean, I'm literally recording scripts over the phone. They take it, and then we go into pre-production with the table read and all of that. But it's coming straight out of prison, and so. They're really giving our individuals a chance. And so that's what made me want to, open up some doors because, again, like we've got so much talent locked up, not only in prison, but in these inner cities that individuals just don't have access to the resources they need in order to be successful. You know what I mean? And so, that's what made me start this website called PrisonRiotRadio.com, which is really giving people inside a voice. So if you got music, if you got books, if you have art, if you had a messed up case, if you're trying to get a lawyer, you can call us and we're going to post these things. We're going to help to get your word out with whatever it is that you're trying to do and create this voice for the incarcerated because it doesn't exist and it needs to. It has to. Like there's no reason in the world you got 1,000 people talking about prison reform, 1,000 activists talking about what needs to happen in prison, and you ain't talking to no goddamn body in prison. Nobody's in prison a face for this movement. You know what I mean? Like that's a subtle form of not necessarily racism, but it's a subtle form of elitism, which racism is just his little cousin. When you feel like you can speak for me without even experiencing what I go through, like who the fuck are you?
So I actually wanted to get into that next because you're working on a few different things while you're in the prison. So you're doing more than just the books, more than just the screenplay. So you're doing the prison talks. I'm trying to make sure I get it right. Prison Talk Radio or Prison Talk Riot Radio?
No, Prison Riot Radio. Yeah, PrisonRiotRadio.com. Yep.
So you're doing the Prison Riot Radio. You've also created a creative writing program in the jail that you're in. That's correct? Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I started a joint called The Art of Storytelling. And basically, it was a 12-week program. Right now, it's in hiatus. It's really because of the COVID thing. And right now in prison, they're deciding how we're going to interact again. Because right now, there's no school, anything like that. Once everything turns back up, we'll know how it's going to go. But up until the COVID, it was a 12-week program. It was 15 guys to a class. And we would go through the steps of telling a good story. We would go through the hero's journey. Again, plot act 1, 2, and 3, plot points 1 and 2. Just dealing with the structure of storytelling. But that's the science of storytelling. The art of storytelling comes from what you bring to it. So I just wanted to give people the infrastructure for them to build their foundation upon. And so, we would deal with, what you do first. Like you have to have an ill ending. Before you write one word, you write the ending. You got to know the ending at least. I mean, it's just like having a ill car. You got a beautiful car, tank full of gas, beautiful woman in the passenger seat. You get in that car and just start driving, and sooner or later you're going to run out of gas, probably somewhere where ain't no gas station. Now you fucked up. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So before you get in the car, before you turn the key, you need to know where you're going. And that's the same thing with storytelling. If you don't have an ending, you don't have a story.
So the people that were in the prison system, were they receptive to a creative writing program?
Oh, absolutely.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I've had so many people react. Guys have gone on to write books. Like a friend of mine wrote a book named Teague, and he has another book coming out. And like a couple of guys. I mean, I think his name is Vance Phillips. But I think Vance Phillips. He wrote a book called Cage. And a couple of guys got some books that's coming out because of the class. So, I really, and it wasn't me, it was just me giving.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
It was just me giving them an outlet. Hold up.
Okay. Wow. Like I told you, he doesn't want to just write books. He's writing the books, writing the screenplays. As someone that writes myself, he's actually giving me a lot of motivation, a lot of tips, just listening to him. The fact that he's been able to put out these books, the fact that he's dealing with these indie film companies, the fact that he's doing something with Lance Gross. I know the ladies love Lance Gross. So, the fact that he's doing a movie, it's coming on Netflix. It's, these are big things. Normally when you hear people in prison, people see it as the end. Some people, you may see someone that's in prison and you feel pity for them, and you expect them to just sit there and rot or come out worse. And the thing that I respect, one of the things is that he's taking that time to improve himself, and then not just himself, but to improve others. You have people that's out here free, home, and they're not taking the time to improve themselves. They're not taking the time to contribute to society. So what he's doing is huge. This is really, really big. We're gonna try to get. I have a couple more things that I want to get through with him, and we're going to try to open it up for Q&A. With his timing, it may be a bit difficult, but yeah, his story is it's amazing. It's really, really amazing. Just the idea that he's written so many books. I know people that have written one book and they're done. They're not doing another one. He's written multiple successful books.
Yeah.
And so, okay, we got you back. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So
that's
you've done
basically, man.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No.
No, I was just talking about that was basically the
so
breakdown
you've done a literacy
the art
program
of storytelling.
So you've done that, and then you've actually introduced something that I had never heard of. You actually petitioned the state of North Carolina to accept a religion called humanism.
Humanism,
is it
right?
possible
Very
that you
interesting.
Can you dig into that? Can you actually explain what humanism means?
Absolutely. Humanism is basically the system. I mean, it's not a religion. It's more of a philosophy that really celebrates our humanity as a part. I mean, as a part of, as a whole of as a community, as a human community. So it's independent of God. Now, that doesn't mean if you're a humanist that you don't believe in God. Although most humanists are what they call atheists, which again to me makes no sense. But most people but you can be a believer in God and still be a humanist. The thing is not to allow your religion to color your humanity. And what I mean by that is, if you're a Christian or a Jew or Muslim or anybody, 9 times out of 10, you feel like you're right and the other religion is wrong. It doesn't matter how nice you are, doesn't matter how giving you are. At the end of the day, you think everybody that agrees with you is going to heaven and everybody that ain't going to hell. It's just that simple. That's what your book, that's what the Bible say, that's what the Quran say. So of course you're gonna go by that book. Where humanism is like, okay, whatever it is that you believe, our humanity comes first. Who we are to one another matters before what we believe, and what we don't believe matters. If I extend a food to you, it's not because you're my brother, it's because you're my human companion, so to speak. It's not because you're Muslim, or it's not because you're not Christian. You see what I'm saying? And so humanism deals with the philosophy of science, of history, of mathematics. It really brings you back to our achievements as human beings and how do we make this world a better place, independent of what a God can or can't do.
Oh, wow. So initially, the state of North Carolina was not accepting of this philosophy of humanism.
Absolutely not. It took them 5 years in a lawsuit in order to recognize it.
So you actually filed a lawsuit to get them to recognize this religion?
Yep, exactly. And it took, like I said, it took 5 years. The American Humanist Association helped me out with it, and they filed the lawsuit, and they fought tooth and nail until it was established. And that's how that was the only way, because they weren't going to accept it. The main reason, because there's no hierarchy. See, religion is a way of holding you accountable. And when you held accountable, a lot of times you're held accountable to an individual who claims to speak for the entity that you believe in, whether it be a priest or a preacher or imam. There's somebody to say, this is what you can and can't do. There's a book that tells you this is what you can or can't do. Humanism doesn't have that. So there was no way for them to say, okay, what is this religion about? It's about being human. And the main thing that got them to that made them have to accept it is because the Supreme Court in 1962 said that secular humanism is a religion, and they had to accept it. There was nothing they could do. They fought it because they was hoping that whoever was fighting for me or with me would give up. That's what they were really trying to do, just run out the clock. But when they seen that didn't happen, I mean, the court said, y'all bullshit, recognize humanism, and that's the end of the story. That's where we at right now.
Oh, wow. So just kind of recapping, just looking at, you're a dude from Newark that at a young age was in the streets, was in the music industry, moved south, found some success in the music industry, ran into an unfortunate situation, found yourself in prison, and while in prison, created a website. You've written several books, several screen. North Carolina successfully recognized humanism as a religion. What's next?
Right. that's what I'm interested in seeing. You know what I mean? Like, what's next is freedom.
Yeah.
That's definitely what's next from that point of view. But the what's next is really freedom. And when I say freedom, not only just for me, but freedom for the people across the country, freedom all the way across the board. Because, like, for real, I mean, for me, I'm coming out of a situation because I've been inside for so long, and now I know where the system's weaknesses are. And the biggest weaknesses for the system is that when you make these people spend money, they start doing things different. It's that simple. And the thing that prison needs is two things: transparency and accountability. If you apply those two things, right? Transparency and accountability at every prison in America, you will transform prison. You don't need another law. You don't need another policy. You don't even need lawsuits. You just need those two things to hold everybody accountable to do their job, what their job is, and make it transparent so we know who's doing what. It's that simple. Right now, when the state needs to come in to doing a surprise inspection, they got to make an appointment. So how the fuck is it a surprise inspection? You see what I'm saying? But if you could really come in here and expect them surprise, you'll see exactly what's going on a day-to-day basis, that they out of order. And so now that I've seen the weaknesses, I know that prisons are built with what they call revenue bonds. Revenue bonds are those bonds that are backed by the state, but they are not state bonds. That's the trick that they tell investors. Now, of course, sophisticated investors know this, but they're built by these revenue bonds. Now, if you put pressure on the individual investors or the hedge funds who are investing in these revenue bonds that come off these bonds, then they can't pay for these prisons. And it's just that simple. The feds ain't going to keep giving them money. They don't have the money to give them. So they're not going to give them money, and if they give them money, they're going to take it over, and the state doesn't want to give up control. So you got to play them off one another, and then you take away the money. You take away the money like a man once told me, how do you stop a tank? He said the best way to stop a tank is just cut its gas supply. That's it. You ain't got to shoot it. You ain't got to kill it. All you got to do is take the gas supply, and it'll just be one big-ass paperweight. It ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? So that's how you cut off the system. Cut off the gas supply, and the system breaks down. You don't need all these protests, everybody in the street breaking windows. All you need is that.
Wow. Wow. I've never actually heard it put that way. There's a lot of people that are going to see this, and they're going to find interest in this. And what if they want to help? What if they want to reach out to you? What if they want to support you? Is there a way that they can do that?
Well, I definitely encourage them, please, to reach out to Prison Riot Radio. Show love for people on the inside. If you got somebody on the inside, let us know. Let us know. Like, hey, my cousin's in New York or my cousin's in California. This is his aunt. Tell him I said I love him. That matters. You know what I mean? When you in here, somebody says, your aunt says they love you. That matters, at the end of the day, because it can get real dark in here. So you can contact me through prisonriotradio.com. You can contact me through, my name, Kwame Teague. My Opus number, my prison number is 0401897, and my P.O. Box is 600, Nashville, North Carolina, 27856. You can contact me through Hip Hop Humanism HR with the letters HR at the end at Gmail. So, you can reach out to me, but I really encourage people the main way, that prisonriotradio.com. Get at that. Show love for the people behind the G-Wall. Just let people know you miss them, and then even if you don't have nobody incarcerated, just reach out and let's chant down Babylon, because we can do it from right there. That's why it's called Prison Riot, because we're trying to create this riot that's going to change everything.
And there was also an email address put here for DutchTheWriter@gmail.com. And
yep,
so,
exactly. That's another email. Yep.
And I'm also gonna, when I post the video up on the Florida Rising Extreme 2 pages, I'm going to give people an option to leave messages there, and I'll make sure that you get them.
Oh, I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. And this has been really a wonderful experience. I appreciate having this opportunity to get it out there. And like I always want to do, I want to encourage everybody, man. Like I said, man, no matter what your situation is, you can win.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you have to look the world in the eyes and demand what you will, not what you can. If you look the world in the eyes, it's always going to bend. I promise you that, because the world knows when it's being addressed by an equal. But if you let the world address you, it's going to find a place for you, and that's the only place you're going to be forever.
That's real.
You know what I mean?
That's real.
So
Final
that's
question.
why I just encourage everybody to bring it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one final question. I know there's a lot of people here that haven't seen you or spoken to you in years. And we're going to put this video out. Hopefully, they're going to be able to see it. Do you have a message for them?
Oh, nah, definitely, man. Mad love for everybody, you know, from the past. Hopefully to see you in the future. You know, I'll reach out to people periodically just to show love. And, you know, a lot of times silence is not necessarily, you know, out of neglect. Life happens, you know what I mean? And I get that. You know, sometimes,
Sure.
you know, you just keep going, and then months turn into years, and years turn into decades, and before you know it, you know, you old and gray. So, you know, just like I said, man, I hope everybody is doing well. I send a shout out, mad love to everybody out there. Yo, get at me and let's be connected.
Definitely. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for Q&A in case anybody has any questions or comments. The way that we do it for those of you that are first time is if you have a question or a comment, you press, there's a button, there's 3 dots on either the top or bottom of your screen that says more. Once you press the 3 dots, there's an option there to raise your hand. Once you hit the raise hand button, I can acknowledge you. If that doesn't work, you can type your question in the chat. If all else fails, pick yourself off mute and let me know just so that we can keep it organized. JJ Fab has a question for you.
Okay.
Good. I'm trying to get JJ Fab.
Hi, how you doing?
How you
I
doing?
just wanted, I'm cool. I just wanted to know, did you have any other authors that influenced you beside your sister teaching you? Were there any other authors?
Absolutely. Maya Angelou. I learned how to make words dance from Maya Angelou. Like, she was the best, God bless her dead. There's a book called Mama Day. It's about a sister who also wrote Women of Brewster's Place. And I can't remember her, Gloria Naylor, that's her name. Wonderful book, Mama Day. Love that book right there. Of course, Donald Goines, without a shadow of doubt. Donald Goines. And Victor Hugo wrote a book called Les Miserables, one of the best books I ever read in my life. Excellent. And so these are some of the individuals that really influenced me and taught me the art of storytelling.
Great. Thank you. Stay up.
No doubt. I appreciate that, man. You too.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? I know I had a couple that was sent to me, but before I read those, anybody else have any questions? All right, I'll go to the ones that were sent to me because I actually had a few that was sent. But hang on, we have some name. Oh, Tone. Yeah, Tone. See, Tone has his hand up. There you go.
What's up, Chaos? How you doing?
Peace, beloved. Who this?
It's Flam.
Oh, this is Flam. This the that my main man. What's up, baby?
No, man, just good to hear your voice, man, and be on this platform. That's all. It just was a raise the hand.
Hey, nah, man, I appreciate you, dude, big brother. Like, a lot of people don't know this, my big brother. Like, hey, man, he kept my head calm a lot of times, man. He made me think. Word up, man. So I appreciate him. Like, him and Jazz, man. Those 2 brothers, man, been in my life for so long, man. I don't even remember without them. So I appreciate that and love them, man.
No doubt. Same here, baby. That's it. I'm glad to see things moving along as they are, man. I already know you're going to keep things moving. That's all I got for you, baby.
Hey, listen, man, like I said, just keep listening out on that wind for that. The JBs. Just keep listening out on the wind, because that shit coming. Believe me. When you hear that shit, you know exactly what to do.
I already know. I know who coming down the block. I already know, man.
Word up, baby, for real.
It's going to happen.
No doubt. We're going to make it happen. Peace, beloved.
Peace.
Definitely. Hang on 1 second.
You have 60
we had a
seconds
couple of
remaining.
questions. Oh,
I'm going to call back one more time.
Left. Do you have enough time?
I got time for one more. Yep, I got time for one more.
Okay, cool. Okay. Cool. Whew. This story is, I've learned so much and there's stories I didn't even expect to learn. You know, we had gone over a little bit during the week, some of the things that we were going to cover, but there's so many more things that, you know, we're figuring out. You know, this definitely will not be my last conversation with him because I may want to collaborate with him on a few things in the future. But yeah, his you know, his story is so amazing. Not even just interesting, it's amazing. You know, again, he went to the jail. He's just starting that literacy program. You know, think about how many writers are going to spawn from that. And you know, those people that's in there, they probably have some amazing stories. They have amazing, amazing stories. So, you know, if you have your questions, now will be the time. We have enough time for one more session of
Yep.
Q&A. So, all right, we got you back. Okay. So since we're doing the Q&A, I have a couple questions that were sent to me. These were actually sent to me yesterday. One of them it's a little bit about when you were sentenced, but not going to start digging too much into it. It's a 3-part question. How many of you were convicted? What were your sentences, and what was you and your family's reaction?
Now say that again. Your voice went out.
Oh, sure. How many of you were convicted when you were convicted? What was you and everyone else's sentences, and what was you and your family's reaction to being told that you got life?
Oh, okay, well, like I said, I got locked up in '94, and so
Sure.
I got sentenced to. I got two murder charges, 2 kidnapping, 2 armed robberies, and they were all ran consecutive. So my mother, I got locked up actually and arrested on my sister's birthday, which is February 1st. So, you know, every February 1st is kind of bittersweet, you know what I mean? And I always hate that, you know, that it fell on that day. But so that was it. So the reaction from my family was devastation. You know what I mean? From my father, my resident, my mother, my you know, everybody, you know, across the board, it ran the gamut. For me, it was more or less, I don't want to say it felt inevitable, but in a lot of ways it did. Because my life, one of the things that I always believe is that, you know, I would rather be surprised and disappointed. You know what I mean? So I always plan for things to go the wrong way. And it did. And so from there, I just had to learn how to cope with it. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, the adjusting, first coming to prison, you have to adjust. You have to get it. And when I first fell, I was at Central Prison. So it's like you go to this Central Prison, and this Central Prison has this, this 20-foot wall, right? And it's all around. So when you're in the yard, you're just looking up. You're not seeing anything outside. You know what I mean? And so coming into that environment, that atmosphere, it was like really gloomy. But what made CT tolerable was, you know, you had a lot of dudes that was, you know, that they've been doing time, and so they taught you, they you understood, and so you got your bumps and bruises, but you learned how to handle the ropes. And by the time you came away from CP, you was pretty much, you already had your sentence mastered, so to speak. And so from there, at that point, I had to decide what I'm gonna do with my time besides trying to get out of here, and that's really where it jumped off at.
So there were other people that were convicted with you, right?
Right. It was me and 2 other individuals. One of the individuals passed away from it wasn't AIDS. It was AIDS related, but he was an hemophiliac. And the other guy that got locked up, he and I here together.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Larry Leggy, me and him are here. Yeah.
And there's another question that was sent to me. When you were in the streets, who did you fear more, the gangsters or the cops?
Say that again.
There's a question that was sent in. When you were in the streets, when you were younger, who did you fear more, the gangsters or the cops?
Oh, I mean, I guess you would say the cops. I mean, there was a different tone. I'm trying to really nuance the question. There was a different tone from the police point of view. So, you know, if you got caught stealing cars, a lot of times you got your ass whooped. I got my ass whooped. You know what I mean? If you got caught, that's why I made sure I didn't get caught. I got caught one time, and then from there, I got real nice behind that wheel. But so, you know, I got caught, and you learn that. But the gangsters, one thing that, and I don't even like to really use that word in that sense, because usually anybody that calls themselves a gangster, Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, so you learn people who in that world, or they have different, like in Newark, everybody is Muslim, right? The street dude is Muslim, the cops is Muslim, the bums is Muslim, everybody Muslim. So I learned how to navigate the system, or whatever I was dealing with, whatever walk of life I was in, it was always a Muslim, right? So there was really nothing to fear. You know what I mean? Like the biggest quote-unquote gangsters was Muslim, Mustafa and Akbar and the Salahuddins of the world. Like these was the, you know what I mean, Karate Malik, they was these Muslims. So at the end of the day, that's my tribe. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, that was it. So in that sense, there was no need to fear, I guess, you know, from that point of view.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna give one more chance. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time to do it, because I know that your time is limited. Let's see. I don't see any hands, but I just want to say this from a personal perspective. You inspire me. You really, really are an inspiration. Again, just considering where you came from. You know, I was a guy that was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in Jersey, grew up in Irvington, New Jersey, which is, you know, right next door to Newark.
Right.
So, you know, I've seen a lot of guys go down that same path. I've seen a lot of guys in the game, in the streets, and I've seen those guys, some of them have gone to prison, and they haven't done half of what you've done. They haven't even done a third of what you've done. And you've taken that time and you've built things that are constructive, that can not just help you, but can help literally the world, between your books, your literacy programs, your Prison Riot Radio, you know, your humanism. You've really done a lot to just change the world. And I really, really applaud you for it. And trust and believe this will not be our last anytime. And trust and believe this will not be our last conversation at all.
Hey, I look forward to it, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, hopefully we can get you on the other show. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Whenever you ready, man, just give me the call. I'm there. I want to, like I said, I want to engage these different topics, the world in general, because, you know, I feel like I could bring something to the conversation that, you know, might be give another viewpoint, so that way we can have another perspective.
Definitely. And everyone, again, I encourage you all to please support the Dutch books. They're on Amazon, or you can email at dutchthewriter@gmail.com. That's very, very important. Dutch, I know that your time is pretty much run out, so I'm not going to hold you too long.
I appreciate this, man. Again, like I said, I appreciate this love. I look forward to the next conversation, man. And for everybody out there that took the time to spend with us today, man, I really appreciate that, and I look forward to your support. Go see the movie. Word up. Go see the movie.
Yes,
everybody go see the movie. Their cousin go see the movie, and let it know like it's about to begin.
Yeah. I think we might have to do a screen or something on Zoom or something. But yeah, we'll definitely get that movie out there. We'll try to get people to support and encourage it. So
say no more, man. I'll talk to y'all soon, man. I appreciate that.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, brother. Stay strong. Wow. I mean, how many of you got more than you expected in that episode? Learned things that you didn't expect. You know, understood things that you didn't expect. You know, this was the whole idea of the whole 90s show was actually my co-host, Legend Damian Simmons' idea. He said, man, we should do something on the 90s. So, you know, Legend and Icon, I don't know if their mics are still on.
Oh, yeah,
I'm on. My brothers. We know each other. So we got Icon, we got Legend. So these are like my brothers. So we actually co-host another show called The Extreme Truth. So we said, hey, man, you know, you have your own thing. Let's work together on something. So when Legend approached me about this whole 90s idea, I said, that's great, but how do we fix it? And then my cousin Tone reaches out to me. He said, man, you got to talk to my mans. You got to talk to my man's Kwame. You got to hear his story. He's an author. And, you know, when you interview an author, it can be hit or miss. It really can be. But then when I started to dig more into his story and I finally spoke to him and I got to speak to the individual, not just the author, I said, man, his story has to come out. It has to come out. And, you know, with the 90s, you have good and bad of the 90s. And he is the embodiment of both. He went through some rough times in the 90s and you see the positive change that came out of it. So, Kwame, I know that he logged off, but I really, really appreciate it. And if you all please seriously support him in there, support him, shoot him some emails, buy those books. Like I said, I have the Dutch series here at home. I'm actually going to buy Dynasty next. The Adventures of that, Prison Riot Radio. I definitely plan to become a subscriber of that. And if you have any friends or family that's in jail, don't forget about them. Don't just throw them away. They probably need somebody to talk to out there. They need someone to keep them up. Just reach out to them. You may be that last lifeline that's keeping them afloat, whether you know it or not. And so, my brother's icon, legend. I know I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot. You have any commentary or anything on what we've heard today?
I'm icon. Okay. Yeah. Well, as far as with me, I mean, it's. Can you hear me? You got yourself together, icon? Yeah. I was ready.
Oh yeah. I'm good, man. I was waiting for you.
No, I heard you take a breath, so that's why I stopped when you didn't say nothing.
Oh no,
I was waiting. Okay. So with me, you know what I'm saying? It's very influential to hear from somebody that came from that area, because everybody think it's all this glorified stuff. You know what I'm saying? With people, like I said, up there running the streets and doing whatever they want to do. No, that shit is crazy. And if you look up the details of his case, it's pretty much crazy. But it shows that not everybody that's in prison. Sorry, let me take off my mask. It shows that not everybody that's locked up is some type of damn idiot or fool or goon or this, that, whatever. Some people just get caught up, even if they are in there, or sometimes in the wrong place, wrong time. So the thing that I love about Kwame is that he took the situation, he made the most positive out of it to make his voice heard. You know what I mean? Because some of those guys get lost in the system. Once they're in it, they're lost in the system. They're fighting forever, appeals and trying to overturn, and it goes on for years and years. I got plenty of relatives, trust me, I know. So more positive to them. It's amazing how many things you can do from being behind bars, right? But that's when you turn the negative to the positive. You got to make it the best that you can do. So definitely props to him.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Man,
respect.
Yeah, I was absolutely amazed at all of the shit he is doing behind bars, because we got people free. He ain't doing as half of the stuff that he's doing. And then he was talking about some stuff when y'all talking about the stolen cars in Newark, and when he was talking about the last school that you go to before you just out of school period or kicked out of the whole system is West Kenny, and West Kenny is right down the damn hill from me and everything. So it was just bringing back a lot of memories in Newark, the stolen cars, West Kenny. Very interesting and just very motivating that somebody's behind bars and that motivated to make a change.
Yeah, definitely. It's the thing is, I figured that this would have been the show that we needed to kick off our 90s our series on just the 90s. We were actually supposed to start our series on 90s podcast last week, but I figured that this story was more important. This story needed to be heard. This needed to be the beginning of it. People are so quick to push a narrative of what the 80s or 90s were, or about a person based on their situation. So if there's anything that you can take from this episode or from Kwame, is to never give up and to never stop making the change that you want to see, because he's doing that. He's manifesting that. He's changing the world. So I definitely look forward to having him on there. And I look forward to continuing this conversation on Monday on the Extreme Truth podcast. So we're actually going to have part 2 on this with James, the icon, Grandaddy Simmons, and myself. We're actually going to be discussing a little bit more about the 90s, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're definitely going to be digging into the.
Once we talk about any good, I thought it was just the bad, the crazy, the ugly.
Oh, there was some good in there too.
Good. I don't know who considers it good. Yeah, I don't know who considers it good, but there was definitely some good in there. Trust me when I tell you, I had a lot of good times in the 90s shit when I was ducking gangs and cops and bullets and shit.
So
we're gonna get into it this Monday because
yeah. Go ahead, Legend.
I'm not good. I already said it.
I think we may have lost. Okay. Yeah. So for those of you that are looking to subscribe, please like and subscribe to the Extreme Truth Podcast Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channel. So that's XTREME Truth. YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And for previous episodes or to see the replay of this episode, please like and subscribe to the Fall to Rise podcast Facebook page, Instagram page, and YouTube channel. I should hopefully have this episode up in a couple of hours. So for those of you that didn't get the chance to watch it, please feel free to watch this episode then. You can also view previous episodes of the Fall to Rise podcast and the Extreme Truth podcast on both. The link in the chat for those that are in the room to subscribe to both channels if it works. I'm having a couple of technical difficulties, but I'll put it out there for those that are looking to subscribe and just watch previous episodes, because with us there's nothing that's out of bounds. We've covered everything from the differences in masculinity. On Extreme Truth, we've covered everything from racial identity to mental health, which I believe is huge, especially in the Black community. It's something that we don't talk about. Molestation, daddy issues. Extreme Truth, we've discussed relationships. We've discussed Black history. We've discussed our society. So, nothing is out of bounds with us. A lot of these conversations are the ones that we're having behind closed doors, and we're not spreading them, and then we wonder why nothing changes. So please
sometimes we do it in
these combos.
And sometimes we do it in a little bit of an extreme way. That's all. You just gotta tell them. They gotta be a little. Some adults, they gotta put on their big girl panties, and
Well, yeah, definitely for Extreme Truth, so, yeah, definitely viewers' discretion is advised. But again, the conversations, there's a point to them. We're not just having conversations just to hear ourselves talk. We really do try to tackle a lot of our issues. We drill down into them, and we give you all an opportunity to talk about it. We don't just want us up here talking. We really want to hear everyone else's opinions. Everyone actually have a lot of the supporters from the Extreme Truth podcast here today. And as I say to you every week, I appreciate you all for being here. And for those of you that are watching this show for the first time, I appreciate you for tuning in. I truly and honestly do appreciate you for tuning in. And I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to the Extreme Truth podcast and the Fall to Rise podcast, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channels. And I would also love if you would, again, support Dutch, support Kwame Teague, buy his books, support his movies. Hey, whatever you can do to support this man, because he's doing a lot to help this world. So it doesn't cost us much to support him. So again, please support him in any way that you can. So for myself and for the co-host of the Extreme Truth podcast, James the Icon Grant and Legend Damian Simmons, thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. Thank you.
For the